Edward Ludwig Van Halen was born on January 26, 1955. He was the son of Jan Van Halen and Eugenia Nee van Beers. Jan was a Dutch jazz pianist, clarinetist and saxophonist, and Eugenia was from the island of Java in the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia. The family eventually settled in the Netherlands. In 1962, the Van Halen family moved from the Netherlands to the United States, settling in Pasadena, California. Eddie and his older brother Alex became naturalized as US citizens. The brothers learned to play the piano as children, starting at the age of 6. They commuted from Pasadena to San Pedro to study with an elderly piano teacher, learning classical piano. Eddie in particular proved to be an early musical standout. Eddie revealed in an interview that he'd never been able to read music. Instead, he learned from watching and listening. For example, during recitals of Bach or Mozart, he would improvise. From 1964 through 1967, he won first place in the annual piano competition held at Long Beach City College. His parents wanted the boys to be classical pianists, but Eddie liked rock music much better. Consequently, when Alex began playing the guitar, Eddie bought a drum kit for himself. However, after he'd heard Alex's performance of the Safaris drum solo in the song Wipeout, he gave Alex the drums and began to learn how to play the electric guitar. According to him, as a teen, he would often practice while walking around at home with his guitar strapped on or sitting in his room for hours with the door locked. What a joy and lucky coincidence that the brothers swapped instruments. Eddie and his brother formed their first band with 3 other boys, calling themselves the Broken Combs, performing at lunchtime at Hamilton Elementary School in Pasadena, where he was in the 4th grade. He would later say that it was when he first felt the desire to become a professional musician after hearing the Clapton, Bruce and Baker supergroup Cream. Speaking at an event in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History in 2015, Eddie discussed his life and the American dream, saying, "We came here with approximately $50 and a piano, and we didn't speak the language. Now look where we are. If that's not the American dream, what is?" Eddie and his brother Alex formed a band called Mammoth in 1972. 2 years later, the band changed its name to Van Halen and at the same time became a staple of the Los Angeles music scene while playing at well-known clubs like the Whiskey A Go-Go. The band got a break in 1977 when Kiss bassist Gene Simmons discovered them and financed the recording of their first session. Soon after, Van Halen signed with Warner Brothers, and in 1978, Van Halen put out its self-titled debut album, which featured the hit single Running with the Devil. The combination of Eddie's electric guitar riffs and Dave Lee Roth's tongue-in-cheek antics launched the album to platinum status within 6 months of release. The band's album Van Halen reached number 19 on the Billboard pop music charts, becoming one of rock's most commercially successful debuts. It was highly regarded as both a heavy metal and hard rock album. By the early 1980s, Van Halen was one of the most successful rock acts of the time. During the next few years, Van Halen became one of the hardest working and most profitable bands in the recording industry, releasing a string of multi-platinum albums in quick succession. 1979's Van Halen 2, 1980's Women and Children First, 1981's Fair Warning, and 1982's Diver Down. But the true superstar status did not come until the release of 1984, which showcased the now classic mega hits Jump, Panama and Hot for Teacher, with videos for each burning up MTV. The album 1984 went 5 times platinum a year after its release. The lead single Jump became the first and band's only #1 pop hit and garnered them a Grammy nomination. Despite or because of their newfound stardom, during this time tension began to grow between Dave Lee Roth and other members of the band. And in 1985, after recording his own successful solo album, Roth left the band to be replaced by former Montrose frontman Sammy Hagar. Showing a remarkable resiliency, Van Halen put out several successful albums with Hagar as frontman, including 1986's 5150 and 1991's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. In 1993, the band released its first double live album, Van Halen Live, Right Here, Right Now. By the mid-1990s, though tension resurfaced, Eddie had a history of alcohol abuse, but the new decade found him sober, and the newly clean and sober Eddie and the unrepentant wild man Hagar butted heads continuously. In the wake of these clashes, Hagar's last Van Halen record would be 1995's Balance. However, He returned to the band briefly in 2004 for a greatest hits release and tour. Shortly after Hager's departure, Roth returned for a much publicised Van Halen reunion, but after recording 2 songs for a greatest hits album and making an appearance with the band at the MTV Music Award, Roth left again. This time he was replaced by Gary Cherone, formerly of the heavy rock band Extreme. Cherone's debut with the band, Van Halen 3, was released in 1998, but slow sales ensured his departure. The band won the 1992 Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance with vocals for the album For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. In 2019, the band ranked 20th on the RIAA list of best-selling artists, with 56 million album sales in the United States and more than 80 million worldwide. Additionally, Van Halen charted 13 #1 hits in the history of Billboard's mainstream rock chart. Meanwhile, VH1 ranked the band as 7th on a list of the top 100 hard rock artists of all time. And in 2007, Van Halen was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Individually, Eddie received acclaim for his guitar work in the band. Eddie engaged in several projects outside of his eponymously named band, including solo work, partnerships with his brother on film soundtracks such as Wildlife Twister and a porno film, as well as musical collaborations with Kiss bassist Gene Simmons, Nicolette Larson, Michael Jackson, Brian May, Sammy Hagar, Black Sabbath, Roger Waters, and Toto guitarist Steve Lukather, as well as LL Cool J. In addition, Eddie made cameo appearances in the music video for Frank Sinatra's LA Is My Lady, an episode of Café American starring his then wife Valerie Bertinelli, and an episode of 2.5 Men. Eddie was also an inventor of 3 patents related to guitars: a folding prop to support a guitar in a flat position, a tension adjusting tailpiece, and an ornamental design for a headstock. In 1981, Eddie made his first guitar endorsement by launching the 5150 Beretta model with Kramer. This partnership lasted a decade, when in 1991 Eddie moved away from Kramer and joined forces with Ernie Ball Music Man, where they jointly developed Music Man EVH model guitar, a partnership that lasted until 1995. In 1996, Eddie teamed up with Peavey, where they developed the Peavey EVH Wolfgang. This relationship lasted until 2004, when Eddie joined forces with Fender, initially releasing the Edward-endorsed Art Series guitars under Fender's Charvel brand, and later developing the EVH brand. Eddie's first string endorsement happened around 1989, when Ernie Ball launched the 5150 EVH line of guitar strings. The gauge of the strings differed slightly from typical electric guitar strings at the time, which were 9, 11, 16, 24, 32 and 42. The EVH Ernie Ball strings measured 9, 11, 15, 24, 32 and 40. After this endorsement deal ended, the guitar strings became part of Fender EVH line and are now sold as EVH premium strings. In 1993, Eddie collaborated with PV Electronics to develop a series of amplifiers and cabinets, collectively called the 5150 series. In 2004, PV and Eddie parted ways, and Eddie started a relationship with Fender, where they began development of the EVH products and brand. In 2007, the first EVH branded amplifiers were produced for Fender, followed shortly after by a limited edition Frankenstrat-inspired guitar. Then in 2009, they continued to press forward on the guitar front by releasing the Wolfgang-inspired EVH line. The brand has since expanded to include additional guitars and accessories. Van Halen's 1978 instrumental solo Eruption, which was voted number 2 in Guitar World Reader's poll of the 100 greatest guitar solos, showcased a solo technique called tapping, a technique using both left and right hands on the guitar neck. Although he popularized tapping, he did not invent the tapping technique, which had been used by flamenco guitarists for at least a century, as well as the likes of Western virtuosos like Paganini on both violin and guitar. According to Music Radar, Steve Hackett, lead guitarist with Genesis in the 1970s, is widely credited with inventing two-handed tapping and was an influence on Van Halen. When asked about this, Hackett said, "Eddie and I have never spoken about it, but yes, he has credited me with tapping." Eddie is a fine player, of course, and he is the one who named the technique. George Lynch said in an interview that he and Van Halen saw Harvey Mandel tap at the Starwood in the 1970s. Van Halen named Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin as an influence, saying in one interview with Guitar World, "I think I got the idea of tapping watching Jimmy Page do his Heartbreaker solo back in 1971. He was doing a pull-off to an open string, and I thought, wait a minute, open string pull-off, I can do that, but what if I use my finger as the nut and move it around? Just kinda took it and ran with it." Van Halen used custom equipment throughout his career. His original choice of guitar was a Gibson Les Paul, for which he replaced the original P90 on the bridge with a humbucker in order to sound like Eric Clapton. He's most associated with the Frankenstrat custom-built guitar from Parts. The maple neck cost $80 while the ash body was bought for $50, as the wood had a knot in it. The tremolo arm was originally taken from a 1958 Fender Stratocaster and was later replaced with a Floyd Rose arm. The guitar had a single Gibson PAF bridge pickup, which he enclosed with paraffin wax to prevent feedback. The Frankenstrat was originally painted black, but was recoated with red bicycle paint in 1979. For Van Halen's 2012 tour and early 2015 television appearances, he used a Wolfgang USA guitar with a black finish and ebony fretboard. For the 2015 tour, he used a white Wolfgang USA designed guitar by Chip Ellis, featuring a custom kill switch. Van Halen used a variety of pickups, including 1970s Mighty Mites, which were made by Seymour Duncan and were copies of DiMarzio Super Distortion pickups. Van Halen also used Gibson PAFs, one of which was rewound by Seymour Duncan in 1978. In an interview with Guitar World in 1985, Van Halen stated that his sound style, which he called the Brown sound, is basically a tone, a feeling that I'm always working at. It comes from the person. If the person doesn't even know what type of tone I'm talking about, they can't really work towards it, can they? In an interview with Billboard magazine in 2015, he stated that he actually tried to describe the sound of his brother Alex's snare drum, which he thought sounds like he's beating on a log. It's very organic. So it wasn't my brown sound, it was Alex's. In 1980, Van Halen met actress Valerie Bertinelli at a Van Halen concert in Shreveport, Louisiana. They married in California a year later and had one son, Wolfgang. In 2005, Bertinelli filed for divorce in Los Angeles after 4 years of separation. The divorce was settled in 2007. The following year, Eddie proposed to his girlfriend, Janie Lezeski, an actress and stuntwoman who was Van Halen's publicist at the time. The two married in 2009 at his studio estate, with his son Wolfgang and ex-wife Bertinelli in attendance. His brother Alex Van Halen is ordained minister, and he officiated the wedding in 2009 and his former sister-in-law Valerie Bertinelli's wedding in 2011. Van Halen struggled with alcoholism and drug abuse. He began smoking and drinking at the age of 12, and he stated that eventually needed alcohol to function. He entered rehabilitation in 2007 and later shared an interview that he had been sober since 2008. Suffering from lingering injuries from past high-risk acrobatic stage performances and crashes, Van Halen underwent hip replacement surgery in 1999 after chronic avascular necrosis, with which he was diagnosed in 1995, became unbearable. He began receiving treatment for tongue cancer in the year 2000. The subsequent surgery removed roughly a third of his tongue. He was declared cancer-free in 2002. He blamed the tongue cancer on his habit of holding guitar picks in his mouth, stating in a 2015 interview, "I used metal picks, they're brass and copper, which I always held in my mouth in the exact place where I got tongue cancer. I mean, I was smoking and doing a lot of drugs and everything, but at the same time, my lungs are totally clear. This is just my own theory, but the doctors say it's possible." In 2012, Van Halen underwent an emergency surgery for a severe bout of diverticulitis. Recovery time required due to the surgery led to postponement of Van Halen tour dates scheduled in Japan. Van Halen was later hospitalized in 2019 after battling throat cancer over the previous 5 years, and his ex-wife Valerie Bertinelli also mentioned a battle with lung cancer in an Instagram post shortly after his death. He died from the illness at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California on October 6, 2020, at the age of 65, surrounded by his wife, Janie, son and Van Halen bassist Wolfgang, ex-wife Valerie Bertinelli, and brother Alex, who co-founded and drummed in Van Halen. On 6th of October, some of Eddie Van Halen's childhood landmarks in Pasadena became memorials where fans could pay their respects to the guitar virtuoso and legend that was Eddie Van Halen.